The dawn of a new era in aviation is here as the US president just lifted a 52-year ban on supersonic flights over land over the continental United States. This is directing the FAA to repeal sonic boom restrictions and enable supersonic travel within 180 days. So this is great news, because one of the reasons that Concord was retired, I mean, a lot of people talk about the accident. Now, I was at Charles de Gaulle Airport the morning that Concord crashed. I took off actually an hour and a half before Concord crashed from the same runway, landed in Bergamo because I was flying a Dornier 328 jet at the time, and had news that Concord had crashed, but it hadn't actually crashed. It hit debris on the runway and then exploded. But then they decided to retire Concord. But the struggle that Concord had all the way along was the fact that it couldn't fly supersonic over continental United States. So when you were flying between London and Los Angeles, you hit the East Coast United States, the plane needed to slow down. And this is why a lot of American airlines didn't buy them. We only had Air France and British Airways use Concord. Then Concord was retired. And over the last few years, where everything has accelerated, it's quicker to do this, that, the other, apart from air travel. Air travel has not accelerated. Now, in my book, The Quantum Economy, I dedicate the last chapter to supersonic and hypersonic flight, and also talk about rocket flight, because that's something that Elon Musk has already mentioned. He said, I want to be able to get people and goods to travel from anywhere to anywhere in the world in less than an hour on one of my rockets. So that's something he's working on, besides going to space and going to Mars and whatnot. But let's go back to this supersonic, hypersonic. Now, there's a number of projects out there, and we have covered some of them here on BizJet TV. The first one that comes to mind is Boom Aerospace. They've already started to fly their Overture aircraft. The prototype is already flying, and they're looking at flying at Mach 1.7. They've already got orders from United Airlines and also from Virgin Atlantic in the UK. So this is a project now that will be accelerated, as I predict that a lot of the money that's sitting out there right now, there's trillions of dollars waiting to be invested. A lot of these business guys now, entrepreneurs, are going to start to pour money into these projects, and Boom Aerospace is one of them, which is an interesting project. Of course, this aircraft is going to carry passengers for airlines, but can also be turned into a private jet, like they did with the Boeing business jet. They ripped out 189 seats in a Boeing 737, and they turned it into a 19-seater luxury apartment that flies in the sky. So that's can be done also with these private jets. Dawn Aerospace is another one we did talk about just recently here on BizJet TV. It's a very interesting project that's happening in New Zealand. The prototype has already been flying. They're looking at going hypersonic, supersonic and hypersonic with this aircraft. And the beauty of this aeroplane, as well as, being tested over in New Zealand, is that it's powered by rockets and it takes off from a normal runway. So it's an aeroplane powered by rocket engines, takes off from a normal runway. So this gives access to this airplane for all the different airports around the world. So that's interesting. Then we've got Hermeus in the United States. They're looking at going above Mach 5, and they're building their prototype on that one. And then we've got NASA and Gulfstream working together on their X series number of private jets that will fly supersonic. And I guess hypersonic is a big thing. I mean, I honestly think, and I did say this at a meeting a few years ago, and I said, I think hypersonic's going to come back before supersonic. I think if I were an investor right now, I would invest more in hypersonic than supersonic. Because let's face it, if you can fly at Mach 5 instead of Mach 1.7, it means you can go from London to New York in an hour and a half. Now, that is a massive change compared to taking maybe 3 or 4 hours or 7 hours that it takes now. So, it's a big game changer. And this is why this new bill is opening up new opportunities for entrepreneurs and for business, because now goods are going to be able to travel around the world a lot faster because they're going at supersonic and hypersonic speeds. And as the US have lifted the ban, other countries will do the same because they want to stay competitive. Because let's face it, if we can start moving goods between LA and New York at supersonic, hypersonic speeds, the US economy is, because stuff's going to move a lot quicker, it's going to be a lot more vibrant, a lot more powerful. So the other countries like China, Russia, Europe, they're going to have to, follow and open up their airspace as well. So this is really, really important. We want to get things moving fast because, you can get on the internet today and do a research on something really, really fast and produce a white paper really fast using AI and that. Well, then once your product's been created and you need to ship it to the other side of the world, it goes slow. Well, it's about to go fast, and supersonic and hypersonic with this new bill. So I'm really pumped up about this. This is one of my favorite subjects in aviation, is flying fast. I talk about it in the quantum economy. Quantum meaning you're going to be making that quantum jump. So now being able to fly between London and New York and takes an hour and a half, it's going to take an hour and a half instead of 7 hours. That's a massive game changer. And that's going to change the way we do business as well. And so we need to start thinking as business people, what can we do? If you're looking at this video and you're watching this channel, you probably have your own private jet, or you're thinking of buying a private jet. And the reason why people buy private jets and use private jets is because it saves them time. Well, if you can fly 5 times the speed of sound, that's going to save you a lot of time as well. So why not look into this? Now, obviously, we're not going to have a private jet or an airplane, a civilian airplane that flies supersonic or hypersonic in the next 180 days. The ban will be lifted completely in 180 days time. But because these aircraft that are being tested right now need to be certified, this will take time. But, you know, where we were looking at an 8-9 year window for these airplanes to be certified and flying, I think this window is going to be shortened. And we may even be able to see these things flying in the skies in the next 3 to 4 years. Because now, you know, they're going to pump money into this and they're going to build more prototypes. And so if they have 3 prototypes that are flying, these 3 prototypes can go out and do all the flight testing that's needed, and in a third of the time. Because the problem with all this has always been this travel ban in the United States. So people are, and investors are thinking, well, you know, should I put my billions into this project? What's the market? It's limited, whatever. Well, now the market is no longer going to be limited, because with the US lifting the ban, other countries will follow. Now the market suddenly opens up big time. And so money will pour into these projects. The companies like Hermes, Dawn Aerospace will be able to build 3 or 4 prototypes. This is what happens with, you know, all the various aircraft. When Boeing develops a new airplane, they build 3 or 4 prototypes. They send the prototypes around the world in different climates and different, you know, to experiment, taking off and landing at high altitude, taking off and landing in the desert, up in icing conditions and stuff like that, and they have to go through all this flight testing. But if you've got 4 airplanes doing the flight testing at the same time, you know, it's going to take a lot less time to get the airplane certified. But if you haven't got the money to build 4 prototypes because the market's limited, well, that is no longer the case. So now the money can pour in to these companies to build 3 or 4 prototypes and go out there and do the flight testing for the supersonic and hypersonic aircraft, get them certified earlier than was planned up until a few weeks ago, and get these aircraft out there flying for the airlines and also for the private jet industry. So it's just accelerating everything now. You know, and policies were the thing. Policies and regulation was what's stopping this from happening. What stopped us from, you know, flying at these super speeds, while everything else is, you know, computer speeds are accelerating like crazy every day. Well, why can't we accelerate our movement through the air from one country to another? Well, that's about to happen. So it's great news. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of BizJet TV. Remember to check in this other video we did recently about airplanes under $10 million that you can buy. So maybe if you haven't bought a private jet yet, maybe start with one of these slower jets before you can order your supersonic jet. And that's all from Fabrizio here on BizJet TV, and I'll see you in the next one.